Good evening, everybody. The time is now 6:01. I'd like to call this meeting of the New Britain Board of Education to order. It's August 4th at 6:01. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. King with a K, if you would lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Asia, if you could please call the roll.
Of course, I have Ms. Gail Sanders Connolly,
Here.
Mr. Merrill Gay,
Here.
Mr. Joseph Listro,
Excused.
Mr. Anthony Kane with the C,
Yo.
Ms. Monica Dawkins,
Here.
Mr. Anthony Kane with the K,
Here.
Ms. Barbara Marino,
Here.
Ms. Annie Parker,
Here.
Ms. Diana Reyes,
Here.
and Ms. Tina Santana.
She will be here shortly. We can all take a brief moment of meditation and maybe, keep in our thoughts the teachers, our students and families all heading back to school pretty soon.
And the former teacher recently passed away too.
Oh, yes. Thank you. We have public participation. Is anybody here that would like to address the board? Would anybody like to address the board? One more time. Would anybody like to address the board? All right. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. I don't believe we had any committees meet. Board reports, are there any?
I did some liaison visits these last few weeks, and I gotta say I was very impressed with the schools I visited. Hal's, Ms. Perkin recommended I attend the presentation for the theater group of the Wedding Singer at New Britain High School. And I thought Sister Act was pretty good back in March. Wedding Singer was actually even better than the movie version. They put on a great show. She and I had a long talk about the future of Hal's. I would love to see that program expanded. This morning I had a nice chat with principal of North End School. She told me about the program they had called Eagles Landing to improve chronic absenteeism. And she told me about how through their staff there, they have gone from 62% chronic absenteeism to as low as 16% through active work with their teachers and their staff there. So I thought that was something I'd love to see expanded district-wide there. But she did share a big concern that she has, and I told her that when the facilities audit comes out, and I've seen it firsthand, is the grounds. And not just the school building itself, but the whole parking situation, street layout too. Because North End is our oldest and smallest building, and you grew up in that neighborhood too. There's a big traffic problem there. I've seen firsthand of the parents, residents, neighborhood driving, ignoring the street signs, buses nearly hit, crossing guards nearly get. She told me about how last year a kindergarten kid nearly got hit by a parent ignoring the one-way signs during the drop-off area. So I'm hoping that when the facilities audit comes out, that it addresses the layout of the drop-offs and the traffic. I went to a conference and we talked about the street sign situation over at North End. And somebody said, well, they should put signs up that it's one way. I said, yeah, and not only that, but I've seen signs further down the street that it's one way coming up there. So we hopefully it gets addressed in the facility audit.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I also attended performances of both the Wedding Singer and the Downtown Players, Beauty and the Beast. That featured a lot of our students. They were both phenomenal. And also we attended the CAPE conference last week, and one of our students participated, and she was amazing. So I'm really looking forward to when our new student representatives come on board.
Yes, do we have one?
That'd be great.
Not yet.
Not until, we probably won't get them until September. Anybody else? Mr. King?
I know band camp started at the high school today with freshmen and section leaders, and then tomorrow will be the full band. I'm assuming that fall sports are also in
Started
camp mode,
today.
so yeah,
Mhm.
keep those students in mind as well.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of sports, I know there's a fundraiser that's gonna happen for football. I should have had some tickets with me, but it's the 25th, August 25th at Alvarium. Anybody else? All right. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Welcome back from the summer. Thanks to all the staff who are in attendance tonight. As the board sees, we have quite a long agenda. I don't think we have an especially large amount of things, but without our normal committee process, we'll have a lot to go through, and we'll answer your questions, hopefully while doing so as efficiently as possible. I want to connect with something that Mr. Kane said about the success of North End School and attendance. That is a district-wide initiative, not that specifically, but something that I've assigned every administrator for the summer, or every school administrator for the summer, is something that we're calling Islands of Excellence, and I think you would anticipate hearing more about that as we go forward. Every school in the nation has always had its own bright spots. The teacher who never seems to send a kid out, the teacher who always seems to do well on standardized tests. What our profession, not just New Britain, has not done well in the past is actually capitalize on these people and turn them into exemplars within their own school. So each principal has been asked to identify their island or islands of excellence within their school, and then we're going through a process of talking with each principal about how they're going to make that island larger. It won't be all at once, it'll be small numbers of people all changing together, but it's something that I have great hope for. Either Mr. Richardson or Ms. Denegre, and oftentimes also Ms. Velasquez have accompanied me, meeting with each principal to hear personally about their island of excellence. And I want to thank the principals for their hard work on that. You'll hear me talk about that more if you're able to attend convocation. I want to say a very strong thank you to all of our staff who has worked so hard during the summer. Everybody on the operations side of things, MIS, custodians, security, administrators, secretaries, and of course our summer school staff. All reports are that we're ready for a smooth opening. That of course doesn't mean a perfect opening. We know that buses run a little bit more slowly for the first few days, and you know, we need to manage our expectations there, but the critical projects have come along well. And that includes the Slade School roof. We've got good progress there on schedule. Work will continue. The HVAC systems are not yet complete, but the roof project, it will be safe for occupancy. A reminder to the board, I'm very much looking forward to hearing from our consultants about school security in executive session tomorrow night. We will be in this room. I've received the full report. It is extensive. You'll not see the full report tomorrow night because if so, we would be here until Friday. It's a 600-page report. Because of the nature, just a kind of advance warning or advice for you is that report will not be released publicly, neither to you nor to the public. You're going to get a very good overview from our consultants tomorrow. You'll, as is our custom, you'll get something to hold in your hand during the presentation, then we're going to turn it back in. And the reason for that is the report itself outlines all of our strengths, but also all of our vulnerabilities at every school site. And that's not going home with you because unfortunately I have to imagine the worst case scenario. I wouldn't want you to be hosting some type of Labor Day cookout and it's accidentally on somebody's coffee table, and now a 600-page report about all of our vulnerabilities is now out in the public. If at any time a board member wants to see the full report, I'm happy to make myself available and we can meet in my office and I can take you through the full report, although I do think you'll get a very good perspective from our consultants. I do want to say it has been an expensive study, but I believe well worth it. And I'll certainly have more to say to you about that tomorrow night. Before I kind of change the tone here a little bit, there were some questions via email about budget processing and such. So that's the handout I just put in front of you. This is probably old news to basically all of you, but I just wanted to kind of lay it out in a visual format. It's important to remember that mostly Ms. Alfano and I, but really lots of other staff members, sometimes we're thinking about three different budget years simultaneously. And right now, this time of year is one of those times. The business office is very busy reconciling the outgoing budget year, the 22-23 budget year. We are in the process of implementing your adopted budget for the 23-24 school year, spending that down in accordance with your approved budget. But then we're also about to start our process for designing, believe it or not, the 24-25 school budget. So for Ms. Alfano and I, that'll begin within the next week or so. We're going to design our internal process, which will look a lot like last year's, but I think we've got some important upgrades and improvements we can do this year. And then, of course, that leads up to our presentation to you in early January. So you'll see our presentation in January, but basically our report starts in, or our work for Ms. Alfano and I starts in mid-August. So that is coming. I'd be happy to pause there, answer any questions if this has provoked any questions with you. If not, please never hesitate to give me a call. I'm happy to talk about these things with you. Of course.
Question about opening of schools. Holmes Elementary. I know the city is in the process of building the extra trail. It's pretty torn up going in. Do you know, will they finish in time? Will they?
I don't believe they'll be finished. Will they, Mr. Salina?
They won't be totally finished, but the portion that you're seeing that's dug up, they understand that by the 23rd, when the staff comes back, this needs to be completed.
Will there be a sidewalk again, or is this just gonna be the trail path? Because they took out the sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm not sure about
Okay.
that, end of it, but we'll keep the superintendent updated.
Thank you.
So, of course, always happy to answer questions, but to kind of the final part of my report tonight, I'm very happy to present to the board 4 new administrators to the district. As always, administrator positions were posted both internally and externally. It is the case tonight that everyone coming before you was an internal candidate, and we're happy to see that. We're happy to see people who have arrived here by their merit. So what I thought we would do is, typically, as has been the process for, let's say, administrators of this level, is to invite them up to the podium to say just a few words. So I'd invite Ms. Butterfield to come up first. She is to be appointed as District Coordinator for Special Education and Pupil Services, Pre-K and District-Wide Key.
I don't know why it makes me so nervous to be up here. I could speak in front of 100 teachers with no problem, but this group. So thank you for having me here this evening and for the opportunity to serve the school district as the coordinator of special education for pre-K and Key. My name is Lori Butterfield, for anyone that doesn't know me yet, and I have been serving the children and families of New Britain for 26 years. Among other positions, I spent 19 years as a special ed teacher, serving a variety of service models, from self-contained to integrated and inclusion services for students in pre-K through grades 8 with a variety of disabilities. I've spent the past 5 years working as the assistant principal and the interim principal at De Loretto Elementary and Middle School. I will remain dedicated to being a voice for our students, working to provide the best services and education possible. I will work with our community providers to ensure all of our students in New Britain have access to appropriate intervention and early identification, because we know early intervention has a positive impact on future school performance and student success. I will connect with families so they feel empowered to support the education of their children. I am a parent of 4 children with disabilities myself and have sat on both sides of the PPT table. I will use my own experience as a parent to fuel my passion to provide our families with the best experience possible while ensuring their children get the best education possible. So thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Lori.
Congratulations.
Next, we have Allison Galen to become the district supervisor for the small classroom setting.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Galen. Good evening. I would just like to say real quickly that I am just honored and humbled to be chosen for this role. I've been in district for 15 years. I spent 10 years as an inclusion special education teacher at Chamberlain, and then I was an instructional coach with a focus on students with dyslexia for 5 years. My journey in special education has taught me about the triumphs and challenges of special education students, and I'm truly committed to helping create a collaborative and innovative environment with the guidance of our special education teachers to help our students grow. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have Kata Soler, the assistant coordinator for school culture for pre-K through 12.
Good evening, members of the board. I am honored and excited to be the newly appointed Assistant Coordinator of School Culture. My name is Keira Soler, and I have been committed to the New Britain School students and families for over 25 years. I was a para at New Britain High School in the mid-late 90s. I became a teacher at De Loretto, and I was there for 12 years, teaching 2nd and 3rd grade. I then went to Slade and taught 6th, 7th, and 8th. I then became a district-wide instructional coach where I was, my first year was focused on elementary and then was moved on to middle school. I then became the recovery facilitator for grades 6 through 12, and most recently I was interim AP at De Loretto with Lori Butterfield. In my different roles, I had the privilege to work with students, families, and staff in every grade level pre-K-12. I have also collaborated and have strong relationships with our community-based organizations. In this role, my primary goal is to create a culture where every student, teacher, and staff member feels valued, respected, and empowered to thrive. I believe that a strong school culture is the foundation for academic excellence and personal growth. In the coming months, I look forward to sharing more about our progress and exciting initiatives that we will embark upon. I'm confident that together we can shape a culture that prepares our students not only for academic success, but for a lifetime of meaningful engagement and contribution to our society. Thank you for your time and support. I am eager to begin this journey and contribute to the continued growth and success of our district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last appointee tonight is someone who's well known to the board, Lisa Kowecki, as our new athletics director. Lisa.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Kowecki. I would like you to thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to work with the amazing staff, student athlete, and families in this district as part of a dedicated leadership team. I was born with the heart of a hurricane and raised right here in New Britain. I was a student athlete here at MBHS, class of 2004, also the last class group to win a football championship. Hopefully we can change that soon. Some of my fondest memories are from my high school career, and the lessons were learned and the friendships were built on the soccer fields behind the school. After graduating from CCSU with a degree in physical education, I started my professional career here in New Britain with the Graduation Odyssey program. I don't know if some of you remember that program. At New Britain High School, and then became a PE teacher at Pulaski Middle School. And I spent the last few years working alongside the infamous longtime athletic director, Mr. Len Cordo. Together, we were able to bring back middle school athletics. We introduced boys volleyball as a sport at the high school, which has become very successful in a short amount of time. And we developed the competitive esports program at the high school. I'm looking forward to continuing to create new opportunities for our students in New Britain. New Britain has a rich history of athletics, and I have some big shoes to fill as the next athletic director, or for those of you who've been around long, big Crocs to fill. I'm looking forward to continuing to build strong connections with families through our youth programs, rebuilding our middle school athletic programs to better prepare our student athletes for success at the high school level. Thank you again for the opportunity. Today was the first day of football and boys golf, and the numbers were pretty promising. First day for other sports is August 24th, and our first football home game is Friday, September 15th, which is also the 50th reunion night of the class of 1973. So hope to see you all there. There is the football fundraiser, and there's American Legion fundraiser for our fall baseball program that night as well at the assembly room. So I'll be giving you updates, but hope to see you at a game. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations, everyone. And I just want to say, I think I'm correct, and this is the first time we have a female athletic director in the school system. So, congratulations. You set a record.
And I do apologize, we do have a caller online for public participation. Had anybody calling in since COVID? So I think they have to unmute themselves.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Catanzaro, 250 Hillhurst Avenue. Proud parent of a child in Lincoln and on the city council. Real quick, I know you guys already played with the uniforms, and I'm a very big proponent of the uniforms. And I know we expanded some of the stuff last year. I would just have you consider some of the females, especially the younger ones, maybe adding pink or purple polo shirts. So my daughter doesn't keep saying I look like a boy. Just saying. Not a big deal, I think, because it's not about the color, it's about the uniformity of the uniform, in my opinion. The other thing, I heard a little bit about the security. That's been my big pet peeve and push, and I know we tried to get more money for that. Unfortunately, it didn't happen on the city side, but whatever you can do to add some extra to the elementary schools, I think would help. I know it's expensive, and I'm sure you're going to get your report tomorrow night, is what I heard the superintendent say. But that's on my mind all the time. So I thank you for your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Now, do we need to open it back up?
No, I think you already called it once.
I already called, okay, perfect. All right, I will entertain a motion to go into an executive session to discuss matters pertaining to attorney-client privilege.
Second.
All right, in that, I need to bring in Mary Ellen Manning, attorney, Eric Bartlett, superintendent, and the full board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, so moving on to presentations. We have a presentation from Pupil Services for 23-24 staffing needs by Mr. Spalding.
Thank you, Madam President. We've had some substantial shifts and increases in students with special needs, most especially at kindergarten. At this point tonight, this is informational only. We are still working diligently on the finances and how they may or may not be impacted. But it is a substantial shift in the amount of students who will need specialized services in our district. So Mr. Spalding, Ms. Velasquez, and I agreed that it would be prudent for you to hear an update at this point. So should major changes or transfers in our budgets become necessary later in the year, you wouldn't be surprised by that.
So good evening, everyone. All right, so I think some of this I've shown in the past, but just to give you an idea, if you look at the chart, I know you have it in your materials. As you can see, we've had a pretty much steady increase with special education students over since 2017 and prior to. There was a slight drop of about 100 students actually in 2020, and that had to do with the pandemic, and primarily about 98 of those students were pre-K students. Next slide, please. This shows the number of our increase in autism. It has consistently been going on the upswing, and to give you a quick example, the official numbers released by the state come on October 1st, okay? So these are all October 1st numbers. And so the last year on October 1st, we had 390 students with autism in the district. As of today, we have 438.
Can we picture why so many increase in number of autism, or instead it's getting diagnosed more?
Well, there's a lot of things. So I believe a few years ago, Nick had actually done a presentation. The prevalence rate here was significantly higher than the national average here in New Britain. But you do have a lot of people moving into the city. We've seen a huge increase, which I'll talk about, in the number of pre-K students who are coming into kindergarten this year. So it's a combination of things. It's medical diagnosis, then we're required, as in due diligence, we will then test those students. Again, it's students moving in. We get a lot of students coming in from Hartford and other places and around the country. I mean, this week alone, we got several in from Puerto Rico, okay, on the spectrum. The next slide, please. So in October, again, October 1, myself and my team looked at the numbers based on past years, and we did a projection when we were going through the budget process. And we had approximately about 15 to 16 students we anticipated coming in, additional kids, we have students coming in, but these were additional students that that were coming in on the spectrum. And, based on our numbers, based on our classroom space, I thought we'd be able to absorb those students, relatively easy. There might be a couple of challenges, but I wasn't overly concerned at the time. However, right now, we have, when we did this report, 55 students come from pre-K into kindergarten. Many of these students never went through our birth to 3 process. Never went to our pre-K, okay? So many of these kids we've never seen before. And a lot of that had to do with the pandemic. So they just weren't in school, and again, people moving in. But we have put eyes on every single one of those students, the ones we were able to, and looked at their paperwork, and we determined that of those 55 students, 18 of them are going to require a self-contained program. And so they are not able to mainstream. They need to be in a key classroom. The remaining can be in the general education setting with additional support, para-educator supports. But, so they're not so significant where they need to be in a key classroom, but they are significant enough where I would not want them to be in the general education classroom without support. It would not benefit them, and it would not benefit the other students in the classroom, and certainly staff would have a lot of difficulty with those students. So services are required for at least 40 additional kindergartens with IEP, including 18 with severe needs. And what we're recommending is that we convert 2 of our small classrooms over at Lincoln right now into this year, to convert those into key classrooms that would cover these 18 students who have significant needs. And right now, last year alone, the small classrooms only supported 17 students in total for the 3 classrooms. Right now, we have 7 kids enrolled in that program for this year. And so I think it would behoove us as a district to convert those two classrooms to support the key kids, because we need that, and we'll keep the small classroom to support the kids, the other children in there. So right now, we're going to require 13 additional paraprofessionals, and those would be to support both in the key programs and in the general inclusion settings. So, and then, we're looking, these would be contracted paraeducators from Soliant, or the parent company that now oversees them. And so we've identified $265,000 that can come from ESSER, allocated to ARC, as you can see. We had $55,000 in the IDA grant, which is a special education grant. Part of that money was due that we no longer require frontline services, so that's why we were able to have those dollars available for a position for support in my office upstairs. We're going to convert that over to fund one of these para-educators. There's reallocation from Title IV for $30,000. And then the academic office is going to transfer $100,000 out of their budget to support this endeavor, and then we require an additional $230,000 from ESSER to fund the balance.
So as I
But
said,
again,
as I said at the introduction, those are all tentative. We have not yet finalized the funding for this need. The need is there, and the need is not going away. But there is no money to be quote-unquote found. So we're being very careful. Every reduction there is basically a reduction in other things that we told you about during the budget process. The one exception there would be the top line, which was the reduction from the expenditures for ARC, meaning the American Reading Company, the resources for the new state legislation. After the board's budget process and after we already moved towards adoption, the state of Connecticut came out with a quote-unquote right to read grant. So that's a grant for which we qualify. It'll help offset the, I guess, almost 10% of the $2.7 million that we anticipate that's going to cost in year 1 of the ARC implementation. So again, there's no action recommended for the board tonight on this. It's informational at this point.
It's a very strong shift in the demographics, most notably in the earliest of grades. But we didn't want this to be a surprise should we come to you at a later meeting with a need to make budget transfers.
The other question I have is if they're using ESSER funds for it, if the ESSER runs out, what's gonna happen?
Well, the ESSER will run out, that's why we haven't made that decision yet.
Santana.
When I read through the report, and I'm pulled back to the young lady who actually came and spoke at the podium, when we were talking about paras and right around the time of that, and she was saying that she actually worked for that particular vendor, Reliant there. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so what she was speaking to was that even though we pay X amount of dollars, and it's almost like doing home care for adults, children, whoever, where it's only a small portion that actually gets to the person doing the work. I listened to her at the time, then I read your report. I'm guessing at the time you were pretty confident, even though we had this discussion during the budget. And now looking at it, something is pulling my attention about that vendor. So I'm just not, me personally as a spec ed mom and as a board member, I was concerned, but it's only because I made sure that while you were doing the budget discussion, I pointed out the fact that we don't even know really what we're looking at. We don't know, but we should be concerned at some point.
I don't know if she was from that vendor. We're actually using two. We've met with the parent company from Atlanta, and we've had a discussion. They provide high-quality folks, so I can't speak to that individual, but I've been pretty pleased with the folks that we've received from the Atlanta vendor.
So
And why not in district?
We typically use those vendors for two reasons. One, we are not able to hire. We've posted jobs continually. We haven't had applicants or qualified or satisfactory applicants. Or it's a paraprofessional with a specific skill set that the vendor can provide. So it's not typically by choice or our first choice. It's to fill a need.
No. I remember when we were sold on this first wonderful big bag of money, because at that time we had let go special education paras in order to make way for the BSAs that would come in eventually. So I get it. So the need has shifted, we need them, but who actually is providing the hands-on care? If, let's say, they have a physical need, is it the para through the contract that is then signed with the third party? How does that
I'm
work
not
out?
clear. I'm not clear on the question.
So then, let's say you've got a kid within all these special needs, right? 17, 18 kids that need an escalated level of care. Who's actually doing that? Is it the teacher that's
So those contracted paras would operate at the same level of responsibility as
in district?
an in-district para.
Okay.
They all would be onboarded and provide proper training, all of them.
Proper training.
Mhm.
Okay.
I do have one question, and I know you said significant need. Will they require, any of them require nursing staff?
We have a couple of students that we do require nursing.
Right.
And this particular group, I do not believe so in this particular group. But we do have a couple in the district that do require that. But off the top of my head, but I don't believe so after looking at it.
Okay, well, I was gonna say that'd be more than that 680,000.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question. Do we usually get more students as the year goes on?
So I anticipate our numbers to go up by August 31st, yes. And they will go up over the next couple of months, that is correct.
So will this cover that, or we're going to be looking at?
I believe we'll be okay for the beginning of the year. But again, can't answer that with certainty.
Yeah.
I can't say. We have a couple of open spaces, and if someone comes in, if this is approved and we're able to do this, then we should be fully staffed and ready to go and have a couple of spaces in the event a couple of kids come in. But and here's the other thing, folks. Some of these kids we haven't really worked with, and they may not be as severe as we think. And so, working with them and getting to know them, we may find, okay, this child needs, Mark can go back, maybe be mainstream with some support here. Or some of these kids that we think need that additional support may not need that and can be in the inclusion setting. So again, some of these kids we have not met, so until we have the opportunity to really work with them for a few weeks, can't really answer that question. But hopefully we'll be okay for the start of school.
Sorry. Can I have a question? So all of these kids obviously don't live right around Lincoln School. So there's no additional transport costs or anything?
Okay, so
Because I'm assuming they may need special transportation?
so students who are in that's a good question. That's a good question.
Okay.
So
Thank you for making me feel good.
No, that's a great question. So students who are in a self-contained classroom do, and 99% of them do receive door-to-door transportation, curb to curb, we call it here in Newbury.
Right.
Okay. And so if the student, let's say Lincoln is not their home school and they are going to be in that program, then yes, we would transport them. But we have a lot of students in Gaffney. And so, your home school may be Jefferson, but if you're in the program in Gaffney, we would transport you.
Okay. I just was wondering in addition to the actual teachers and paras, whether we have other costs.
At this point, we think we have enough vehicles contracted that we don't think that
Okay.
there's impact to the transportation budget.
Okay.
But it's an excellent question.
Okay.
That is a good question.
Okay.
Question more for Dr. Gasper. The 100,000 that's coming from the academic office, is there any concern regarding instructional supplies and having a hole there?
I would let Ms. Velazquez speak to that, but I believe this was mainly targeted at professional development. Is that correct?
Yes, we could probably do that. We're thinking that we'll look at the entire budget and see where it's the least impactful. If we have some funding towards books, and given the large funding of books that are walking in the park, we're going to reconsider there as well.
All right, thank you.
So I want to thank Mr. Spalding and Ms. Velazquez for that financial exercise. Again, we have not pulled the trigger. Those would require transfers that we would come to the board for. However, that's a conversation I've had with some board members. It's a level of financial discipline that I've insisted upon, that there is no money to be found. Every grant application was scrutinized, and as you guys know, the local budget was scrutinized as well. So the potential cost of somewhere around $1 million does not just get fixed. So hard decisions may be in our future, but we will keep the board apprised when and if that's necessary. Thank you, Mr. Spalding.
Thank you. All right, so item.
To get ready for the first day of school, when do we need to make this decision?
So no action is needed from the board at this point. We've got enough funds in place to get us through, the next coming weeks and perhaps a few months without the need for a board transfer. But again, in full transparency, that's why we wanted you to know about this now, should that become necessary. We will continue working on that, and once we see the actual hard numbers of the services needed and how many can be hired, how quickly, we'll keep you up to date.
I need to make a slight adjustment to item B. It's for the presentation for varsity tutors. There should be high dosage tutoring.
Although high voltage sounds like a really cool.
Sounds good, like some shock them into.
So, I believe we have Ms. Stewart who's going to speak briefly to the board. So, this was something that came to me under summer authority, and conferring with the board president, we decided to bring it before the board tonight. It's important to know that high dosage tutoring is an approved methodology from the State Department of Education, and they have an approved set of vendors, a menu of vendors from the State Department of Education. So with that, Ms. Stewart's going to give us a brief overview. Thank you.
And just really quick, Mr. Kane.
Just for the record, I do work part-time for varsity tutoring, so just for the record for that.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about an exciting opportunity that has presented itself to New Britain schools. So I wanted to just kind of frame it by sharing a little bit of research around one-to-one tutoring and how we're trying to personalize instruction for students coming out of the pandemic. We realized that students emerged in different places coming from the pandemic, and so the instruction, we've had to pivot how we provide services for students because the students are so unique. They've come back in so many different places. In one classroom, you can have students across a wide continuum of levels of ability. So thinking about how to tailor instruction to students is kind of where our emphasis on tutoring is coming from. So you have different quotes. I don't want to read the quotes to you, but basically the Connecticut State Department of Education has partnered with Varsity Tutors to provide one-to-one tutoring to students. We've been able to, we received a grant that's going to pay for our work with Varsity Tutors, but Connecticut, the state education is behind it. So we're looking good. So I wanted to go through the phases of grant implementation. So we received the grant in July. It's called the Priority School Districts and Faith Acts ARPA grant. And basically it provides us the opportunity to partner with Varsity. And this is an overview of the work ahead. So over the summer, we've had some meetings around partnerships. We've been planning outreach and incentives for students, and we've been establishing the criteria for success, like how do we know we're doing a good job once we implement the grant. So we've been kind of trying to lay the groundwork for the grant. We're also going to be hiring a grant liaison, which is going to be connecting the work of the district to the outside agencies that are going to be providing some support to students. So we're kind of starting to go slow to go fast. So we're hoping that our intentionality around our planning is going to go a long way. So we're going to be beginning a small-scale pilot in September where we're going to be servicing grade 3 through 5 students for about 20 weeks. They're going to have 30-minute sessions, and then we're going to eventually scale it up where we're starting really small to begin with. Middle school students will also be involved in the pilot. Many of our students are enrolled in after-school programs at outside community agencies. So we're going to be partnering with those agencies to deliver the tutoring while the students are there. So it's going to make better use of their time instead of them doing other things that are non-academic. It's going to give students a chance to receive some tutoring. And then in grade 9, students will also have access to 24/7 tutoring, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what the 24/7 tutoring will look like. In phase 2, we're going to scale up based on our successes during the pilot, so we'll make some changes or adjustments, and then we're going to scale up the size of the implementation. We're going to increase outreach because we're going to increase the number of students that we can service, including grade 10 students. So this is just a brief overview, and then throughout the phases, we're going to be monitoring student achievement as a result of their receiving these tutoring services.
So this is I believe it's a contract and a purchase order that's on our agenda a little bit later, but we wanted to give you a chance to hear a little bit more about this program because it is something new and different.
I do have a quick question. Go ahead. Just a quick one. So the phase 1, or whatever it is, September to January, these are only students that are going to be in Parks and Rec? Or are they identified to join Parks and Rec and then be part of the tutoring? What about the kids that don't go?
So we talked a lot about this in our planning meetings, but our initial phase is going to be through the partnership with Parks and Rec. And then as we scale up the number of seats that are available, we'll possibly scale up the locations of the tutor.
So that's meant to be just really a pilot.
And then just to piggyback, the varsity tutors would be the workers from, you're bringing in tutors, or are they the workers from?
You're getting ahead. You wanna
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were, Ms. Marino, sorry.
No, that's a good question, I'm gonna explain that.
Okay.
My only question was, is this a lottery thing or whatever? I mean, we've got to have more kids in the Park and Rec after-school programs than the numbers you're talking about working with, so who gets the halo and who doesn't?
So the pilot is kind of small, and we don't know the exact numbers for Park and Rec, but they feel reasonably confident that they can service the number of students for the pilot, which is just about
I'm sure they
a little
can.
bit less than 100.
And then some, yeah.
So
That's why
across their locations, right? So it depends.
we're trying to like monitor like several different things at once. So we're trying to monitor the number of students that are, you know, using like aftercare programs like the Parks and Rec versus if we don't fill those seats, then we'll open it up to certain schools that are kind of like in need of more support in literacy and math. So we're kind of being flexible and watching how things go.
Okay.
So the pilot will be our time to kind of feel things out and then adjust as we go along. So this tutoring is virtual. So it comes depending on the student's grade level, based on their developmental, what's developmentally appropriate and what their needs are. We have 3 different structures that are available. So for K-5 students, students will have similar needs. Students in the primary grades usually have similar needs. So that the K-5 students will have small group tutoring, up to 5 students in a group. And we expect the Parks and Rec staff to help students to log in. So this tutoring, all of this tutoring is virtual. So instead of having students at home, they may not have the support to get logged in and things like that. While these students are at Park and Rec, they have adults that help them to get logged on, put them in their groups so that they can have their group sessions with the tutor. So K-5 students get small group based on their similar needs. 6th to 8th students get individualized tutoring. So I always consider middle school students, they're like Swiss cheese, but every student has different holes. So we have to individualize the supports for the students at the middle school level. So their tutoring is one-to-one, it's virtual as well. And then lastly, 9 through 10 students, they get on-demand tutoring across a variety of content areas based on different assignments. So it's kind of like that real-time tutoring. So they have an assignment, it's due tomorrow, they can call. They have tutors that work all hours of the night because they have tutors in different time zones. So the students have a wide availability of getting support in the upper grades, not in the center. Support for implementation. So this slide just talks a little bit about the different staff members that are involved. So you'll have a grant-funded liaison. It's a stipended position, and it's intended to monitor student enrollment and achievement. So like you said, if enrollment drops at Park and Rec, you can invite more students to log in from home, and this person will be responsive to how things are going. The liaison will communicate with schools and external partners and serve as a bridge. The liaison will coordinate incentives and celebrations. So we thought a lot about that. How are we going to keep kids engaged over time with this? So we're planning in advance for incentives and celebrations. You have New Britain coordinators such as myself and the coordinator of STEAM, Jen Wright. We're leading the implementation of the grant and working on putting all those pieces together. We also have our partnership office that puts us in communication with outside agencies like Park and Rec, which helps us in the various locations. And these are previously existing relationships, so it's good to not have to build new relationships. They know our student population and they're used to working with us. And then Park and Rec, like I said, they have multiple sites. They have the technology to support our students being able to log in. And it's a form of wraparound services to make sure that the students have that academic engagement even after school hours. So, scope of the grant district describes the number of students that will be impacted by the grant. So in phase 1, you have approximately 60 K-5 students, 80 6 through 8 students, and up to 415 ninth grade students. So Varsity has assured us that they have the capacity with their network of tutors to support all of our ninth grade students. And when we scale it up in phase 2 to include 9th and 10th graders, that'll be up to 830 students at the high school level, 75 students at the K-5, 80 at the 6 through 8. So for a total of 1,125 students at a cost of $530,000, $905. But the grant covers all of that. So per student, it is $471.91, and that's covered by the grant. So, our students may not be able to afford these individualized tutoring services, and these services are provided because of this grant.
So, actually, another question. So, it's only Parks and Rec throughout? Will you open it up to the YW, the YM, Boys and Girls Club? I mean, I know they all pretty much have the technology to.
And we're increasing the number of students, so we'll increase the number of sites. And so we've had a lot of communication with the community agencies. So as we scale up, they're prepared to jump in.
Okay, thank you.
Where will the ninth graders receive instruction? At home or in a setting or?
So for the 9th and 10th grade students, it's on demand at home, the location of their choice.
Mr. King?
Can you speak at all, or is there any information available through the program on the effectiveness of virtual versus in-person tutoring? I'm especially thinking of the younger students, and we saw through COVID how much of a struggle it was teaching virtually, and especially in a small group with elementary age kids. I'm just wondering, how impactful it will be. I'm thinking it will be more successful with older students, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what data is out there.
So we're trying to control for the variables, because the students are receiving their support at Parks and Rec, where they'll be monitored by staff that can support them and help keep them engaged with the platform. So we can't guarantee the same level of home support for students. As we saw during the pandemic, the students had different levels of home support. So we're trying to control for different variables like that. But virtual tutoring, it can be effective, but we are thinking about things like the monitoring, who's going to support the students. We're also thinking about how do we keep students engaged, so that's why we're thinking in advance about celebrations and incentives and things like that. But I feel really good about the effectiveness of the grant, and it's more than we can provide in our 8 to 3 school day, right? So this is time well spent. So if the students are at Park and Rec, they could be playing basketball, or they could be, I don't know what they do at Park and Rec, I never was but they could be doing a lot of things, or they could be logged in for small group tutoring, and any little bit of support, any extra amount of growth, I'll take it. So it's time well spent, in my opinion.
I, on the other hand, do know what the kids are doing in Park and Rec.
Tell me.
Because I'm a district parent. But I remember asking you if you had been into a classroom when you called so confidently discussing my nephew. And then you found out, yeah, he didn't have like. But what I'm curious about is this. You're still asking for the staff at Park and Rec to be the ones that are hands-on, right? Because I don't imagine that you'd be going to Slade to help the kids log in. I'm not saying you would or wouldn't, I'm just saying that in my picture, based on the way that you're presenting now, that's not you, that's not Jen Wright, but the staff is going to. And then make sure that the kids are engaged in a program that is not their bag, right? Because they're used to keeping the kids engaged in doing the activities that they are going to be doing with them and getting to know the individual student. I understand with the grant, I understand how it filters down, I got that part of it. And that Varsity Tutors has a network of tutors, right? Because on that end, they're gonna be coming through the screen, they've got enough people on that side, but you need to keep an eye on the kids here. I'm still missing where that's coming from, and it shouldn't be on Park and Rec staff.
Okay.
My grandchildren went to Park and Rec, and they get this homework is built into that.
Yeah, it is.
There's a schedule for that. They always got theirs done, and then when they go home, we make sure that it's done. But I mean, it has been working where they've been helping students, so I don't see why it would be different this time.
Can I just assume you've already had these conversations with Parks and Rec, and they're ready and willing to help participate in varsity?
Correct, and I think at Parks and Rec, one of the concerns they expressed to us in our planning conversations was that sometimes students show up to Park and Rec and they say they don't have any homework, right?
Absolutely.
Well, coincidentally, we have something for you. So Park and Rec they're excited to have an option to offer students that that say they don't have homework. And as far as the oversight, Parks and Rec, they hire, teenagers and different things to oversee the students. And then we also have the grant funded liaison that works with Park and Rec to let us know, oh, such and such wasn't engaging with their lesson, we'll follow up with them. Right, so there is that connection between Parks and Rec and New Britain schools.
So the liaison is going to oversee all of the sites, so that way in real time you're gonna get which students are not doing their work?
We will have regular communication. We won't be calling the house that night, but we'll know by that Friday, so we can ruin their weekend, honestly. But, in general, we want the implementation of the grant to be a success, and we want to maximize the tutoring. So that's why we're starting with a small scale pilot, and we'll tweak it as we go along. So if we don't feel like the students are getting the, appropriate amount of oversight, we have that relationship with Park and Rec to see how we can support it in their doing that.
Right, and I'm sure, and I know like Boys and Girls Club, why, they would probably be right in there with you. I think it's a great opportunity for our kids, for
I
sure.
definitely agree.
My only thought is for the programs like the Y that are under regulation, they're licensed. Their after-school programs are not supposed to be like an extension of the school day, so they're not supposed to be doing schoolwork, and they can get cited on that during their inspection, so it's something that they might have to kind of play around with.
Oh, I did not know, no, that was the YW, not.
No, I know.
Yeah, they're not,
Yeah.
no, Parks and Rec and Boys and Girls Club are exempt from licensing.
I did not know that.
Absolutely. No, I did.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
All right, moving on to the agenda. Item A, did everybody have a chance to look at the meeting minutes from June 5th? Any changes? All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on June 5th, 2023?
So,
Second?
I do see a correction that's been made.
Okay.
Under curriculum, wrong cane listed.
The what?
Wrong.
Picky.
wrong Tony Kane.
Oh.
C versus K.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. All right, with that one change, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? All right, item B, take a motion to approve the minutes from Special Board of Education meeting on June 13th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by Mr. King? No? Oh, you had a little.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah.
need correction.
Is it the other C?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, sorry. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
I wasn't.
Okay. Oh, item C, accept the personnel transaction and extracurricular appointments. I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item D, is there a motion to accept a grant from American Heart Association to support school bowling equipment at North End Elementary in the amount of $1,587? I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item E, may I have a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSD&B and the Children's Museum to provide lessons, field experiences about a variety of topics to keep students engaged.
I move.
North End Elementary School,
Second.
amount of $16,000. Is there a motion?
We can just do it. And then
Oh, I
second.
wasn't finished, I can hear, I can't
I'm
hear. and
sorry.
talk,
No,
so.
he
All right.
motioned, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Is there a motion to approve contract between CSD&B and the Children's Museum to provide lessons, field experiences about a variety of topics to build background knowledge and vocabulary for Chamberlain Elementary School, $27,500.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item G, may I have a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Varsity Tutors for Schools LLC to address Connecticut Core Standards in Literacy or Numeracy in the amount of $158,155.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I abstain.
Well, he abstains, I'm abstaining.
You're saying no?
And
So
I
we have
abstain.
one no and one abstention. All right, item H. May I have a motion to approve purchase order and purchase order and contract between CSDNB and World Wild Youth Network Paradigm Academy to use esports and gaming to bridge experiential learning activities through SEL and CTE curricula to 30 students at Pulaski Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item I, may I have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between Pulaski Middle School and engaging schools regarding increasing academic discourse and new teacher mentoring in the amount of $130,997.48.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item J, I have a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between CSDNB and Local 871, New Britain Federation of Teachers regarding Article 4-12 for substitute teaching. Ooh, tongue
So
twister.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I do have a question. Is this the same amount from last year? Thank you.
Unchanged.
Unchanged, I like that.
The only change is the naming of the school year.
Yep, I like it, thank you. Couldn't find the last one. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Oh, item K, I'll entertain a motion to approve memorandum of understanding between CSDNB and Local 871, New Britain Federation of Teachers to amend Article 5.3 regarding classes for special education students. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'm sitting over this way, it's like, who's gonna motion first?
I know. Oh, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving right along, item L. Is there a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and Unique Learning System for one-year curriculum renewal, district-wide, in the amount of $23,440.49?
Motion, so moved.
Barbara seconds.
I know.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
There's plenty of opportunities tonight.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I want a tick mark at the end.
Never second.
There's enough for everybody.
All those or is any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'm gonna say that in my sleep tonight. Can I have a motion to approve a purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Cormier Consulting to provide executive coaching, professional development, and support with school-side systems at Pulaski and Slade Middle School in the amount of $90,750.
So moved. Discussion part.
I was just gonna say, do I need a second?
Second.
And then discussion. Ms.
Just if you could expand on it, I'm so sorry. I'm just curious what this looks like. You know, like here's 90,000. Again, I see on paper, but
Sure.
what does it mean?
So these are services, again, it's under the Commissioner's Network grant for the schools. These are services that are endorsed by the State Department of Education. So if you take a look through, for example, executive coaching is, I think if you look at that first bullet there, what's really, it's a funny term, critical friend. So what this is, why this is important is, this is a chance for the principals of these two schools to get feedback from somebody who's not writing their performance evaluation. confidential and private, of course. So really direct feedback. The other services here are really centered around, you'll see used here more than once, DOK. That's depth of knowledge. That's a district-wide initiative to get our kids thinking more deeply. We have district-hired coaches at these schools. This is a chance to increase that. So every school has a coach or coaching services. We're using the Commissioners Network monies to give the teachers at the school basically extra doses of coaching. And similarly, you see under Tier 1, that's coaching about instruction across all classrooms. And it's to help the principals or the assistant principals become better judges of the classroom instruction that they see when they visit classrooms.
Can you correct me if I'm wrong? Commissioners Network, in order for us to use that money, it has to be approved by the state.
This is correct, so we have to draft a plan. It is a grant, so we have to propose a grant activities to the state. They have to say, yes, that's okay. These are not only services that they endorse, but providers that they endorse.
Thank you.
I just needed that, just really, because when I read through it a few times, because I went through just to make sure I didn't have hiccups in my brain, I was going, it sounds an awful lot like the escalated version of like Ed Advance. Is that approved?
It is, Ed Advance was a
For like the teachers and the students, this
So-
was more administration.
So you are correct.
Right.
That is a good analogy. Ed Advance was a provider that the district contracted with until this year. They helped us with curriculum revision and in-class coaching. We have chosen to let that contract lapse based on a number of factors. So this is a chance to continue. Again, we're differentiating the services for these schools. The schools with the greatest need are getting more services, in this case through the grant.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
For everybody? I mean, Ed Advance was for everybody? I'm sorry, I was way behind.
That is a very complex question that I will attempt to answer in the most honest way I can. Previously, decisions were made to use Commissioners Network monies and spread them throughout the district, the services throughout the district. When I had conversations with the State Department of Education upon my arrival, they preferred not to have that approach anymore. That is not laying blame on anybody. That was, as the board president just asked, that was proposed to the state, and they said yes. What we're attempting to do with, we should say, our new round of Commissioners Network money, because we applied, the initial entrance is 3 years in the network. We applied to continue, and they approved for Smalley, Pulaski, and Slade to continue. Is to really now spend the money at these schools specifically. So you get into the Commissioners Network by being a school of great need. So we're applying additional resources from the grant directly to the schools that get the grant.
Okay, and I get that, but the services and the whole technique and the whole thought process and whatever wouldn't work for other schools. I get only using commissioner money for that, but what about all the other schools? And
So learning what, teaching what they learn based on,
right.
like
I mean,
sharing that knowledge.
It sounds like a great thing, so why aren't we showing not using that money? I got it. The concepts and the whatever, or it's not
So this is
necessary.
very similar to what we talked about earlier when we talk about finding islands of excellence at each school.
Okay.
That's not going to be shared just at the school level, but amongst principals. So when schools do find something that works, we will certainly share it. In this case, it truly is just extra hours. It's extra bodies in the school. So for example, if you might have an elementary school that has 2 coaches, those coaches are only going to be able to see each teacher so many times. We're basically using many of the same coaching philosophies and models, but greater dosage, to use the word from earlier, so these teachers will be able to experience, and the principal, more of the same type of coaching that's happening elsewhere.
Because we have the funds specific that you can do. Okay.
Correct.
I get that, it just seems like it's
And I would say,
beneficial for all.
no, it's a very good question. This is about, we often talk about the difference between equity and equality. This is not equality, it's equity, so the schools that have the demonstrated greatest need are able to provide their teachers with more frequent access to these kinds of coaching services, and for the administrators too.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item N, may I have a motion to approve a purchase order between CSDNB and Imagine Learning for renewal of licenses that provide credit recovery solutions for New Britain adult education in the amount of $21,017.15.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item O, is there a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and School Messenger for yearly renewal of calling software?
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item P.
I was gonna say, if you voted that one down, we would send you lots of school messenger phone calls.
I was just gonna say, I don't get that many anymore, so we once had a principal who would set, he set the timer for every hour on the hour to send the same message. It was not good, anyway.
Is that why he's not here anymore?
Pretty much, no. So item P, may I have a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Bridge the Gap Educational Consulting LLC to provide instructional coaching to special education teachers at Smalley Elementary School for $45,360.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I would just add, the board will see a theme here, some of these services, wherever you see Commissioners Network. Also, for those of you who are perhaps less familiar, coming up, we have another one called SIG, School Improvement Grant. Those function very similarly. SIG and Commissioners Network, these are additional services provided to only certain schools, because only certain schools get those additional funds.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item Q, I'll take a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Creek Senior Education Specialist Jessica Kazigian to develop student work protocol and support instructional coaching for Chamberlain Elementary School in the amount of $12,400.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item R, is there a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and School Links for subscription of college exploration, application management system, and career essentials for students grades 9 through 12 at NBHS in the amount of $70,647.63?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item S, is there a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Catherine Y. Serino to improve practices and outcomes related to effective professional relationships and high-quality teaching and learning at Chamberlain Elementary School in the amount of $3,600?
So
Why is this
moved.
even coming to us? Is it
Oh, that's
supposed
true.
to-
I was just writing that note.
Yeah, I was just gonna, that's okay. But that's,
So,
With the bid, bid
Mr.
limit is $750, or $7,500. Anything less than that, they don't need to bring to us.
I was just writing that note that, it's before you now, so we'd appreciate your consideration, but
as
this,
long as it's here.
this slipped through our, our vetting process. It does not actually need board action according to your policies, but now that it's before you, we would appreciate your consideration.
Versus the next one for $149.
Yeah. All right, any,
Second, you need to.
oh, because it's a
second.
contract?
Yes.
No, the board has recently updated its policies at my request that now POs and contracts below 7,500 may be approved by the
It
superintendent.
looks so excited to make it swimmer. I mean, Jesus, one more glitter out here. Don't worry, Meryl.
Did we have a motion in a second?
Aye.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item T, moving right along. Is there a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and Bureau Veritas for 3D?
Veritas, yep.
Veritas, for 3D scanning and annual fee for hosting scans on the cloud in the amount of $149,057.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just say this is one we're particularly excited about. It's a funny thing to say about a purchase order, but There were staff members of this contractor walking around every space in the district with a very futuristic looking gadget over his head. So we will now have a 3D virtual scan of every classroom, every space in the district. Most especially, I'm excited about that for the ability to share that information with first responders like the police department and the fire department, who can now learn our schools and virtually visit our schools for training purposes or in the case of an emergency.
I know that Mr. Smad was, when he was describing it to our public town committee, you thought he was like describing a kid with a brand new toy. He was like so excited about it.
That's really cool though.
If you've ever like toured a city using like Google Earth or like Street View.
That's exactly how he described it, like
This
Google
is-
Earth with school.
This is that, but inside. So it has not only for our own knowledge about our own facilities, but also the ability to help our first responders know our schools very well should they need to respond.
Is that something that they could have readily available? I hate to even say, but if there's an emergency, to be able to like pull it up and say, okay, I know it's on the north side of the building, and
So it's a hosted
On the cloud.
application, so if they've got cellular access to the internet, 5G access to the internet, they should be able to use it pretty quickly.
I have a question. Is any of that reimbursable by the state?
Not this, and in fact, this is, in my opinion, a very good use of the ESSER monies. So we're using the federal recovery monies
Okay.
to pay for something that is gonna last longer than the grant lasts.
that's actually a great question, because typically when they do have us do something.
I had heard, so that's why I wanted to.
A construction project such as the Slade roof has the
Yeah, no, but for the security purposes
So it's another great question. In this case, because we do not yet have a security report, the district hasn't been able to apply for security grants.
Gotcha.
Sometimes those grants do work in a reimbursement fashion, and sometimes they work in a strict kind of grant fashion. So, once we get the report and once we can apply, that's something we can investigate.
I just, because, I just wanted to say thank you to you, but also to Rebecca, because when I had questions, she was able to answer, but really advocate for this, where I was like, you know, like Big Brother kind of taking a look inside the classroom. Can they tell us which one needs to get painted? But, but I just want to say thank you to you, but to her.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item U, is there a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and iReady, an online platform to diagnose and offer a virtual learning path for students needing support in reading and math district-wide in the amount of $248,298?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item V, have a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Delta T Group to provide paraeducator staffing coverage at Lincoln Elementary School in the amount of $363,600.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Any abstentions? Item W, is there a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and VocoVision LLC DBA Blazer Works to occupy 18 paraeducators positions for the KEY program district-wide in the amount of $1,126,440?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item, you're opposed? One opposed. Item X, is there a motion to approve purchase order and contract renewal between CSDNB and All Points Healthcare to provide a contracted one-on-one nurse to assist student with significant medical needs, $60 per hour for an LPN, $70 an hour for an RN in the amount of $88,200.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, just curious, is there, the hourly rate is extremely high, given nursing staff. I just wonder, is there a reason that we have to go outside with this and not hire from within?
This is a very challenging situation where the student has significant needs. And I will say it's been very difficult to staff. We only have one person in district that right now is trained to work with this child. If they're out, it's an issue. This child needs support from where they leave the home to when they go back to the home constantly. And it's very difficult to find nurses. Hospitals are having difficulty. And it was difficult to find this. We've been looking around quite a bit, and so I would say, that's honestly, it's pretty reasonable if you look into it. And these people are specifically trained to support this child. This child has a breathing tube. There's lots of issues. I can't really say anymore, but
No, of course.
with respect to this.
Yeah, no, of course.
There's a lot of significant.
We, during the pandemic, I know we'd hired additional LPNs. Are all those staff members, have they moved on with a decrease in ESSER funds?
Yeah, we've moved most of those, and they're not. We have one of those is going to be supporting our expulsion site this year, but all our we have no extra folks. Everything's spoken for this time. Yeah.
Too bad we couldn't hang on to them. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it took a while. We did look to hire. It was very difficult.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item Y. Is there a motion to approve bid waiver between CSD&B and ESS to provide?
Move.
Sorry?
Definitely move.
She didn't finish yet, now she's not
Well,
even gonna hear you.
I've been waiting for this one.
Well, now you gotta wait longer. Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to call his mom after.
Want her number?
All right, so to approve bid waiver between CSD&B and ESS to provide employee substitute staffing K through 12 district-wide in the amount of $1 million.
Okay, I move.
Second.
All right, discussion.
I've been waiting for this one because what's the fill rate for Kelly has been disappointing for it, and I'm looking forward to see what ESS can do for us here.
So Dr. Sanders has done some extensive research along with some other members of the team. The current Kelly fill rate is usually between 30 and 35% of our need. Dr. Sanders has spoken with, I believe, 5 other Connecticut districts who've changed from Kelly to ESS and have seen substantial increases in that fill rate. I attended one of the meetings that Dr. Sanders has called. I found them to be forthright and apparently honest about what they could and could not do for us. I didn't get the feeling that they were over-promising. One particular aspect of their service, which I asked about specifically, is we would have a dedicated resource person for New Britain. So when a substitute is not performing well or we have any other issues that need to be addressed, Dr. Sanders and her team will have one particular person to call who is dedicated to managing New Britain services. So I also do recommend this to the board. As a matter of procedure, tonight we're asking just for a bid waiver. That would let us know that it's okay to move forward and begin contract negotiations. So we would have to come back to you with the contract.
Now Kelly provided that for us at 1.2. I remember they had a dedicated person just for New Britain. Is that no longer the case with Kelly?
No, and I think perhaps what the difference is that the person is local. So one of the persons who came to the meeting that I attended is actually Waterbury's local person who works in Waterbury to serve Waterbury needs. So perhaps in the past Kelly might have had a dedicated person at the other end of a phone located somewhere in the nation.
But they're not in Farmington anymore?
They are a national company, so I don't know if they still have offices there or not. So this is a bid waiver because obviously it is above the bid limit and it's not bid exempt. Basically, we're asking for your permission to move forward with discussions with ESS. We would need to come back to you with the contract for your approval. If approved, and if the contract negotiations are successful, we would look to probably implement this after the holiday break, beginning in early January. We think that would give them enough time to basically staff up. As is the case, oftentimes one company uses the previous company's employees. There's nothing unethical about that. So, but we definitely think that obviously the start of the school year is too close. We discussed mid-fall, but this is not something that we want to rush into. We want to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible.
So our contract with Kelly has ended, or?
So we did some research, we, meaning Dr. Sanders and her team, did some research into that. We have only a 30-day notification period for Kelly. We can terminate at will with just a 30-day notification period. Which surprised me.
Yeah, usually it's 60 to 90 days.
Typically, they want you for a whole year, and then a 60 or a 90-day notification period.
Well, they were used to being renewed, you know.
Seemingly so.
Yeah.
Seemingly so.
I don't like the bus.
And I remember, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like there were only 2 sub-services, was the PSS or Kelly. I mean, like, when I researched years ago, I could only find the 2 of them. I don't know if there's others out there.
Not that we're aware of. Perhaps there are other smaller outfits. You know, in my opinion, for a contract this potentially large, that's why we're asking for the bid waiver.
But Hartford's one of them.
Yeah, Hartford used to have their own internal subs, and they realized the same thing, that it's easier to hire an outside company than.
Well, it's Hartford, Waterbury, Thomaston, Bristol, and there was a 5th, Dr. Sanders. That's okay.
Yeah, and except for Hartford, they were all towns were Kelly. And Manchester, and Portland, I know was Kelly as well, and they switched over to ESS.
But when Kelly came on, we had our own internal,
Mm-hmm.
and they just took all the people that we had on the list and started using them, and we paid them all that money to do that, so.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item Z. Can I have a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company for Read 180, a program designed to improve reading abilities for students testing below grade level at Slate School? $35,977.94.
So moved. Oh, we did it again.
Need a second. Any discussion?
Just informing the board that there'll be a similar proposal coming before you at the next meeting for the other middle school. We just didn't receive it from the company in time to get it on tonight's agenda.
I was just gonna say, I know 180, they've used it Slate in a long time. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item double A. Is there a motion to approve purchase order between CSDNB and, is it Quaver or Waiver?
Quaver,
Okay.
I
Looks like
believe.
it's, maybe I have a pen mark. Looks like it's different on mine. For renewal of Quaver Music Technology Platform, which includes movement videos, activities, interactives, games, and assignments. In the amount of, there is no amount.
I believe it's on the,
Probably on the,
It's a giveaway.
it is $18,000, I believe, because it's $1,800 at each elementary school.
I remember seeing it in the packet.
Here it is.
Right here, grand total 18,000.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item BB. I have a motion to approve purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Donald F. Para, PhD, to provide a foundation of strategies to achieve long-term success at Pulaski Middle School for in the amount of $18,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, I guess I have a question, what are they gonna do?
So Dr. Paris is a trainer that's gotten very strong reviews from our principals. Ms. Clerkin has been using him for some years, and Mr. Ortiz brought him to Pulaski last year. Primary focus is on classroom culture and management.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item CC. Is there a motion to approve the Smith School playground dedication?
Move.
Second.
Discussion.
We met last week, Smith School naming. Smith School recently got a playground and it was requested to dedicate the playground, so we had a committee meeting, an ad hoc committee to come up with some names to dedicate it. We threw some names together. It was decided to dedicate the playground to two names. One is Paul Salina, in honor of his work with the high school and the district. And also to dedicate it to the recently deceased Anthony Cavallo. He was a longtime assistant to the principal over at Smith, a retired teacher from the district. He did a lot of work at various schools. He mentored myself and other teachers in the district. His daughter is principal at Lincoln, but he had a long-lasting impact at Smith School. So we figured it was very appropriate to dedicate the playground to him as well. So with the board's approval, we're going to dedicate the playground to both of them.
So there was a suggestion that instead of naming the playground, to putting a plaque. And so the recommendation was for it to say in appreciation for their continuous, impactful, and dedicated support to the children of our community, the Board of Education and the Consolidated School District of New Britain dedicates this wonderful playground to the following community members, so that way, as appropriate, if other community members are to be added and honored, they can be added to the plaque.
This way, somebody has in the future decide has a lasting impact to Smith, we get the board come back and add it to the list.
So, well, Mr. Salina is here, so congratulations. Well, he's probably here in spirit. And if my memory serves me correctly, this was donated through the Mirrors Charitable Foundation, right? Her
That is
charity.
correct.
Yeah, right. So which is even doubly amazing. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So item DD, approve financial report. Are there any questions? Oh, you need a motion to approve the financial report. Motion?
No.
I'll move.
Second? All right,
Diane seconded.
a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wow, it's only 7:40. So, item E, I'll take a motion to go in executive session for the purposes of discussing matters related to the superintendent's performance evaluation.
Madam President, before the vote, may I please go out of order?
You may.
I neglected one thing from my superintendent's report. I believe tonight is probably the next to last board meeting for Ms. Christina Denegri, who's with us tonight. Want to wish her congratulations in her new role as Assistant Superintendent for New Haven Public Schools and thank her for her dedicated service to the kids of New Britain. Thanks, Christina. Best of luck. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. So now, do I have a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing matters related to the superintendent's performance evaluation?
Do we have to invite anybody in, or?
We are going to, so here's how it will go. I will invite the full board, and then we will bring in Dr. Gasper after.
Okay. Move.
He probably wants that way. All right, so all those in favor? You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, we are back.
Motion to come out of executive session.
We don't have to motion, we can't vote when we're in executive session. So
We're back.
we are
Motion
back.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Move to
Anybody?
adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.